Now that you have a basic understanding of how narratization functions, we're going to look at how viewers and television producers rely on tropes or stereotypes of gay representation in the way that they fill in the missing blanks of a queer character's queerness. In other words, sexual minorities very rarely have the opportunity to prove their sexuality by way of sex acts. So how do viewers use stereotypes of queer representation to fill in those missing blanks? The first trope that we're going to talk about is the trope of the crying gay man. This is the depiction of gay men on television shows as always excessively emotional, or as victims, or as constantly crying. You may remember earlier we talked about the boy code. And the boy code makes it to where boys and men can't display any emotion other than anger or sturdiness. So when a man is on television and breaches the boy code, that's seen as a breach of masculinity. The trope of the crying gay man affirms hegemonic masculinity by representing what masculinity is not, namely demonstrably emotional. And here we have a few examples of the crying gay man in various forms of media, ranging from Chris Crocker, who became a viral media sensation after he posted a YouTube video where he was crying over the mistreatment or perceived mistreatment of Britney Spears, and he cried, "Leave Britney alone!" Also on reality television shows like Bravo's Project Runway, there's typically a gay character who's crying throughout the entire season. Here's an example on the bottom of Chris Marsh. On my season of Big Brother, I went into that season telling TV Guide and all these other media outlets that I wasn't going to be the crying gay man. But no matter how hard I tried, production was intent on using the crying gay man trope to narratize my character's sexuality or to prove that I was gay in the absence of gay sex acts. So in this clip that we're about to watch, you're going to see me cry in times that I was legitimately crying, like everybody did in the house. We were away from our friends and family for over 3 months. We were on really restricted diets. I mean, we were in torturous situations that would make anybody cry, but production really honed in on me crying. They even made crying part of my storyline when I was crying as a joke. My strategy for picking my poker face was to get freaky and funky and big. I wanted to be over the top. I was just channeling my inner Lady Gaga.
What's new? Reagan, crying again. You've been crying for the past 2-3 weeks. Why stop now?
With Enzo winning the power of veto, I feel hopeless. I'm in the worst possible position. You have 3 men who have been working together since very early in the game. Hayden, Lane, and Enzo. An alliance right there, and Brittany and Lane. And Reagan doesn't factor into anybody's equation. I just feel an overwhelming sense of heartbreak.
Just let it go. It's over now.
I have really given my all to this game. I'm heartbroken.
It's gonna be a lonely week. Rough day. You know the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks? My sock puppet is like my Wilson right now. I want my life back.
The next trope that we're going to discuss is the trope of the gay pretender. And this is when a straight person pretends to be gay. So it's a straight person's interpretation of what gay sexuality or gay mannerisms might be. So they're typically constructed as way over the top. This is problematic because it allows straight people to speak for and as gay characters without the threat that the characters will ever, quote unquote, go gay or prove their gayness by kissing one another or shows of affection. Another thing that's problematic about this trope is that gays are often the butt of the joke, so to speak. So it's not laughing with gay people, it's laughing at gay people. Some examples of this include the 1970s and 1980s sitcom Three's Company, where the lead character, Jack Tripper, lived with two women in an apartment in San Diego, but their landlord didn't want to have any cohabitation of men and women unless they were married. So the way they got around this was they pretended that Jack, the character, was gay, despite the fact that he was a Lothario and he had multiple sexual partners. And so the joke was always making fun of gay people and how their landlord would believe that the main character was gay. There was another show called Boy Meets Boy, which came out soon after The Bachelor, where they had a gay bachelor and half the contestants were gay and half of them were straight, but the straight people were trying to trick the gay bachelor into thinking that they were gay, and if they were selected at the end, they would win a cash prize, so deception. And the Adam Sandler movie, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, where the two main characters are firemen and they have to pretend that they're gay in order to get spousal benefits with one another or domestic partner benefits. A variation of this trope is the straight mistaken for gay trope. And there are two different types of this. The first type confuses gender performance for sexual identity. So it may be a heterosexual person who is more effeminate. There was a character on Saturday Night Live named Lyle, the effeminate heterosexual, and people constantly mistook him for being gay because his gender performance was more feminine. The second variation is the gay by association trope, and this one is much more insidious. What it does is it takes a straight person who's hanging out with a gay person, and it has other characters suggest that the straight person is now contaminated by the gay person's excessive sexuality. So the assumption is, wow, you must be gay if you're hanging out with a gay person, as was the case with my best friend in the house, a married straight man named Matt.
Hello, house guests. I have some information for you that you might like to know. When you all entered the house, you introduced yourselves as strangers. But I'm here to tell you that two of you are actually lifelong friends.
Wow.
And if you think about it, it's actually quite easy to figure out.
From the beginning, I thought Matt and Reagan, I think Matt is gay, and I think them two are in a relationship, and they're playing a great game.
Matt, let's do this. Why are you doing this to me, baby?
I decide to challenge my good friend in the house, Matt. Matt goes up and gets a 9, which knocks me out of the competition.
Sorry, baby.
Tell me a bedtime story.
A sexual one?
No.
You have good dreams?
I dreamt about shirtless Hayden.
You what?
I dreamt about shirtless Hayden.
You dreamt about Hayden?
Yeah, with no shirt on.
With no shirt on?
Yeah. It's weird.
Like, what was he doing?
He was hanging out. Like, I got evicted from the house, and then I went back home, and then Hayden was, like, hanging out with my parents, shirtless, on our couch.
This place is crazy. It messes with your mind. I'm in some sort of homosexual showmance now. I'm dreaming about shirtless Hayden. Stacy, baby, I know I love you. I'm just confused. Maybe I just need to get out of here.
Back at home in Texas, if you do have a dream like that, you do not
tell anyone.
I'm okay dreaming about Hayden, just I'd rather he had a shirt on in my next dream.
So you want to continue a friendship with Reagan, then why did you throw him under the bus?
You know, it was in, it's strategy versus friendship, playing with your heart or your head. My heart was with Reagan, my head was with the brigade. Strategy, you got to go with your head.
The next trope that we're going to talk about is the trope of the gay villain, which depicts sexual minorities as predatory and also immoral, sometimes as vectors of disease. The gay villain trope often suggests that sexual minority characters are threats to family and home. The first winner of the reality competition series Survivor was a guy named Richard Hatch, and he often, he was like the quintessential reality show villain. And he was called a snake before he won the prize, and he's the one who came up with the idea of like backstabbing and working in alliances. But production added all these layers of deviance to Richard Hatch's character. He was often shown walking around the island in the nude with his genitalia blurred out. Another example of the gay villain trope would be the Catherine Trammell character in Basic Instinct, who is a bisexual character who kills her victims by stabbing them with ice picks. Often in Disney films and other animated classics, the villains can be coded or decoded as queer characters. So, for instance, Ursula in The Little Mermaid was modeled after Divine, who is a famous drag queen. The next trope that's popular is the gay man hetero girl duo. And this is an example of expansive hegemony. And remember, expansive hegemony is the idea that you include a small message of progressive ideology, like including gay and lesbian characters on a television show. So that seems like you're taking a step forward, but in reality, all the other messaging in the television show or the movie makes you take 2 steps back. So on a show like Will and Grace, for instance, you have gay characters. That's a step forward. But the gay characters are in heteronormative pairings. Will, a gay character, is paired up with Grace. They used to date one another. They have sexual fantasies about one another. They consider having a child together. Jack, a gay character, is paired up with Karen, and he marries Karen's female housekeeper, and so most of the scenes that you see the gay characters in, they're paired up with straight women, and it comes off like just about every other heterosexual-oriented sitcom that we've seen in the past, like The Honeymooners, or, anytime you see 2 married couples as the 2 heterosexual married couples as the leads in a show. Another example would be the movie The Object of My Affection with Paul Rudd and Jennifer Aniston, where Paul Rudd plays a gay character, and Jennifer Aniston is his straight friend. She falls in love with him. She has a baby out of wedlock, and she wants him to be the father. So a lot of this relies on straight fantasies, despite the fact that you have a gay character on the television show or the movie. The next trope that we're going to talk about is the trope of the flaming homosexual. Flaming is a derogatory term that is meant to highlight the effeminate behaviors, mannerisms, and dress, or the perceived feminine behaviors, mannerisms, and dress of gay characters. And it allows viewers to use confirmation bias, and confirmation bias is when you're looking for information that confirms what you already believe, in this case about a gay character. So any dramatic behavior will prove that the gay character is a flamer. Remember that repetition is a key element of performativity. So the repetition is what creates the reality that characters are gay. In my book, I look at all of these different gay men who have participated on Big Brother, and Big Brother has had a series of different gay men. You don't have to write all of this down on these next 3 slides. I just want to kind of go over these ideas with you. So regarding, and this is what fans and viewer forums have said about the gay characters on Big Brother. And the point, the big takeaway here is going to be no matter the race, the ethnicity, the social class, the job, the mannerisms, no matter what, the gay characters are always rhetorically framed as flaming homosexuals by viewers, regardless of their behavior. Sometimes the viewers are writing this before they've even seen the gay character behave in any manner. Sometimes these comments are made before the season premiere. So regarding season 11's Kevin, who is a 29-year-old biracial graphic designer, one fan wrote down, "Go down in flames, you flaming queen. Die in a fire, you're a flaming queen." Regarding season 14's Will, a 24-year-old white man in marketing, he's referred to as somebody who's not straight acting, as a hot drag queen mess. Regarding season 15's winner Andy, a 26-year-old white college adjunct instructor, a viewer says, "I wouldn't have a flamer for a teacher. I'd never be able to take them seriously." Regarding season 16's Frankie, who is a 31-year-old Latino, somebody wrote, "He's an AIDS-infested, foul, repulsive, noxious, flaming, boorish," and those are his good traits. Regarding season 18's Josiah, a 25-year-old Latino makeup artist, somebody said, "Before the season premiere even happened, I'm 150 to 200% sure that he's a flaming homosexual." Yeah. So the point, the big takeaway, is that no matter how these characters behave, they're constantly being interpreted as flaming, no matter their race, their ethnicity, their mannerisms. It's a trope. It's a way that viewers fill in the missing blanks when they don't get to see these people engage in any type of sexual activity. Some other characteristics that help define the flaming trope: flaming as femme, and also flaming as hypersexual. These are some of the other ways that flaming gets defined. In those fan forums, these are taken from a fan forum called Survivor Sucks. Not only do people write textual commentary on the characters and the narratives of Big Brother, but they also use Photoshop to create artwork. Here is some of the Photoshopped images that were used to interpret or narratize my character on season 12 of Big Brother. All the way on the right, you have my head superimposed over Norma Desmond from Sunset Boulevard, and it's there's a whole paragraph about basically me being flamings. Here you have an image of me in a dress next to my friend Matt, and who's portrayed as a little person, and then all the way on the left, you see a hypersexualized image of me, despite the fact that I'm the only gay person in the house. I can't have any type of sexual hookup because of that. I'm the least sexual character on the show. They create a sign that is a play on the Nutty Professor, where I'm the slutty professor, and I'm a monster, and I'm presumably mixing together a potion that will allow me to take sexual advantage of the male contestants on the show. Another characteristic of flaming is the flaming drama queen, which refers to gay men who know how to read or how to articulate witty insults. Gay drama helps establish and maintain dramatic scenes on reality television. So when they cast gay characters, they want a gay character who's going to snap and who's going to know how to put other people down. And we see this a lot on RuPaul's Drag Race, where characters are known for reading one another to filth and making fun of one another. It's the proof of the truth of their sexuality and the absence of intimacy. So the role of Synecdoche. Synecdoche is a literary device where somebody references the part of something to reference the entirety of it. So an example of this might be if I say, I got behind the wheel. What does that mean? It means I'm driving. A wheel is a part of the car that I'm referencing so you get an idea of the entirety of the car or the idea of driving. So when it comes to Synecdoche on reality shows and queer representation, A specific trait is a part of a person meant to represent the whole of their identity or the entire group that they come from. So in the case of the tropes that we just talked about, tears become a characteristic or a part of gay stereotypes that are used to prove the entirety of a gay person's gayness. There's a concept called the burden of Synecdoche that you'll need to know for the exam. And the burden of Synecdoche is when one character has to shoulder the burden of representing a diverse community of people. And oftentimes, when somebody from a historically marginalized group participates on a reality show, they're framed as either good representatives of their community or bad representatives. And good representative rhetoric is problematic because when you call somebody a good representative of their community, that implies that the rest of their community is somehow inferior, subhuman, or corrupt. An example of this, my season of Big Brother, was the eventual winner, Hayden Moss. When I was evicted, the remaining house guests get to send goodbye messages. And his goodbye message to me was, "Wow, Reagan, you are such a good representative of the gay community." But keep in mind, all we're doing in that house, we're eating, we're participating in competitions, and we're sleeping, and then backstabbing and lying to one another to get further ahead in the game. So if I'm a good representative of the community, I fear what Hayden may assume the typical representative of the gay community is. Bad representative characterizations are obviously bad. They rely on partial anecdotal evidence to affirm stereotypes by way of confirmation bias, as we've already talked about. But they're also bad because they're a double standard. White, heterosexual male characters don't shoulder this burden. Nobody's looking at somebody like Hayden or another straight white man and saying, "Wow, you're such a good representative of the white, straight male community." Those characters get to just represent themselves.